Hello, and thank you for joining me. I am Mbaya, and this is Recap, a look at the week's top PC gaming announcements, news, and releases for the week ending 21st of November 2015. Some disappointing news for those of you looking forward to getting your hands on Deus Ex: Mankind Divided in February. Eidos Montreal's head of studio has announced the game will be receiving a 6-month delay and is now scheduled to release August the 23rd, 2016. Recent full playthroughs haven't met up with their high standards, and the additional time will be used for tuning, iterations and refinement, though they are confident and proud of the game they've made so far. I'm fine with delays which result in a better game, and is something I'd honestly rather see than a Game of the Year edition 6 months later that irons out any issues with the launch game. And while the delay does bring with it some concerns about the quality of the content, hopefully it will give them the additional time they need to polish things up. Ubisoft have announced a preview event for Rainbow Six Siege that will run from November the 25th through the 29th. While they're calling it an open beta, it seems quite obvious this is a marketing push more than anything, but it's certainly good to stress the servers before going live. All you need to give the game a try is the Uplay client, and you'll be able to preload the game on November the 23rd, and if you've participated in any of the closed beta stages, you can start playing the next day, giving you an additional 24 hours access. You'll have access to 14 unique operators, 2 PvP modes, the single player or cooperative terrorist hunt mode, and be skulking around 3 of the game's 11 planned maps. The game releases on the 1st of December for £49.99, though will receive at least 4 free maps over the next year, and 8 new operators that can either be bought or earned in-game. Paladins, Hi-Rez's attempt at a hero-focused team-based shooter, has now entered into its closed beta. You assume the role of a champion throughout an entire match, where you must attempt to capture a randomly activated control point that then spawns a siege engine in an attempt to bring down your opponent's vault, secured within a keep. As well as a selection of characters with varying weapons, each have a number of abilities to help teammates or hinder your enemies, and there is a mix of a collector's card game, as each time your champion levels up you get a chance to select from 3 randomly chosen cards to enhance your character further. I was fortunate enough to have received a beta key and have been having fun with the game, and I hope to have more thoughts on it soon. And if you're craving some hero-based FPS action, you can head on over to Paladins.com to sign up for a shot of the beta, or you can purchase the Founders Pack, which costs just under £16 and gives you instant access to the game, exclusive Infernal Warhorse mount, and a whopping 100 random cards to add to your collection. The third part of the Final Fantasy XIII saga, Lightning Returns, is scheduled to release on Steam on the 10th of December for £12.99. The game shakes things up with a more action-driven combat system that sees you swap between different costumes during battle to vary up your role, and having played a bit of it on the PlayStation 3, I found it to be pretty solid and entertaining, defending blows, setting up attacks, then unleashing everything I could to take down my enemies. The one thing I did not like, however, is the game is constantly pressuring you as you're fighting against the clock. The world is doomed, and you're given several in-game days to make a difference, with the possibility of extending the time a little, but ultimately the world's existence is extremely finite, and certain areas and events are available at specific times, and as a result content can be missed. While it might lead to replaying the game, I simply didn't like feeling rushed, and despite enjoying the core game, I've bounced off the game twice. If, like me, you're the type of gamer that enjoys going at their own pace and exploring, you might find it hard to get into Lightning Returns. Dragon Quest Heroes is due to release on Steam on the 3rd of December for £39.99, or you can pre-order now to save an additional 10%. Dragon Quest Heroes is a spin-off of the main JRPG series, and is instead more akin to the action game's Dynasty Warriors, that sees players battling overwhelming hordes of enemies with over-the-top combat moves and relentless action. Going by the trailer and screenshots, the game looks lovely and seems to have a bit of a kid-friendly cartoon vibe about it. It actually reminds me quite a lot of Blue Dragon, so I must admit my curiosity has been piqued, and this could very well be the first Dynasty Warriors style game I give a try, depending on how the port is. Interceptor Entertainment and 3D Realms' upcoming action RPG Bombshell has received a new release date of January the 29th and has been given a price of $35, which should end up around £25 or so, though UK pricing hasn't yet been specified. The game, which likely started off life as a Duke Nukem title before legal issues with current IP owners Gearbox, sees the protagonist Shelley Harrison use her robot arm and a lot of bullets to save the president from a terrible alien threat. Not entirely sure what to make of this one, as it's clearly going for cheesy dialogue, so there's potential for some laughs to be had. The gameplay seems very actiony and more akin to a twin-stick shooter, and I honestly quite like the environments and the level of destruction. However, I've never quite liked the humour of Duke Nukem, so if this is ticking the same boxes, it'll be a pass, but one I think I'll be keeping an eye on when it releases. Developers Nippon Ichi have announced their much-loved classic strategy role-playing game Disgaea will be coming to the PC in February. An updated version of the original Disgaea PC will have improved UI and textures, full Steam integration, and will include all of the content from Disgaea Afternoon of Darkness as well. There's a lot of content to be had, with over 40 unique character types that have a maximum level of 9,999, but can then transmigrate to start over from scratch, gaining more power per level. And as well as the story, the game features the Item World, a method of levelling up items that challenges you to randomly generated dungeons. There's no word on pricing just yet, or if there are plans to bring further games in the series to the PC, but this seems like a welcome surprise to longtime fans and newcomers interested in the former Sony PlayStation and Nintendo DS series. The next expansion for Don't Starve, titled Don't Starve Shipwrecked, will be available on Steam Early Access on December the 1st. While there is still work to be done on the game, it will see the addition of new creatures, biomes, seasons, and fun new ways of dying. Unfortunately, players hoping to experience the new content with a friend will have to wait, as the expansion is currently single player only and not available for Don't Starve Together. A couple of upcoming dates to mark down on your calendar, as the Steam Autumn Sale is expected to start in the evening on the 25th of November and last until the 1st of December. And the biggie, Steam's Winter Sale, should run from the 22nd of December until the 4th of January. You won't have to check in every day for the best deals this time around, however, as it seems they're doing away with the daily flash sales. Instead, games should remain at their most competitive discount regardless of whether they're featured or not. While I think it's a good move, especially for those that couldn't check in regularly and missed out on the largest discounts, I'll miss the anticipation of 6 PM rolling around and rummaging through the latest offers. But hopefully there will be another event to coincide with the winter sales to keep me occupied. Afro Samurai 2 publishers vs Evil have decided to pull the game from sale on Steam and cancel the second and third volumes that were in development. The general manager of vs Evil stated very earnestly that the game was a failure, that they will be issuing refunds, and they offer their apologies. It's a shame fans of the series didn't get the game they wanted, but it's a pretty good move for a publisher to take such a firmly planted stance due to the quality of the game. Hocus is a perspective-based puzzle game based on the works of MC Escher that seriously hurts my brain. The objective is to simply move your little sentient cube to an exit point by traversing 65 seemingly impossibly shaped levels, with more on the way. While it was originally a mobile game, it seems fairly priced at £2 and is claimed to be both optimised for PC and human brains, which seems to suggest mobile gamers lack a human brain and brings into question if I do, given how much of a headache I get just by watching the trailer. Mordheim, City of the Damned is now available on Steam for £29.99 and is Rogue Factor's attempt at bringing the classic Games Workshop tabletop game to the PC. This turn-based strategy game adds in a fair amount of RPG elements with character progression, customization, loot, persistent wounds, and permadeath. Featuring 4 factions, each with their own story mode and online versus play, you'll be attempting to outmaneuver and crush your enemies while looting items from their corpses or weapons found hidden in the ruins in the City of the Damned. It all looks like a good use of the license that is true to the spirit of the tabletop game, and as a fan of turn-based strategy and Warhammer, I'm eager to give this one a go. I'm secretly hoping it does well enough that they consider giving Necromunda the same treatment, as that is a game I'd love to see brought to the PC. Thea the Awakening has released on Steam and is a turn-based strategic survival game with hints of a roguelike and card battler. The game takes place in a procedurally generated hex-based world and will give players the ability to manage villages, gather resources, craft items, and handle encounters with a complex card battle game. It sounds great with a large list of interesting features such as over 200 story events, creatures with their own unique stats, character progression, alternate solutions to conflicts including stealth and diplomacy, and even multiple game endings. Absolutely looking forward to getting my hands on this, and it's way up on my wishlist. Thea the Awakening is available now at its release price of £11.99, that will go up to £14.99 from December the 1st. Assassin's Creed Syndicate is available now from most online marketplaces for £49.99, and this time takes the familiar Assassin's Creed gameplay to London during the Industrial Revolution. The good news is the game isn't a complete mess. The bad news is if you don't much care for Assassin's Creed action-y gameplay, this is unlikely to be the game that changes your mind unless you really like hilariously cringy British accents. And as you're listening to me, you just might. I'm way behind on the series, having not even completed Assassin's Creed 2 yet, but I find it enjoyable enough and it's nice to see that Syndicate has released in a better state than Unity did. I also appreciate that on the Steam store page, some of the screenshots show comparisons of the game with and without the various graphical effects activated. That's something I'd very much like to see more of. Hard West, the story-driven turn-based strategy game that takes place in a supernatural Wild West themed world, is available now on Steam for £14.99. The game will certainly feel familiar to those that liked the recent XCOM titles and features 40 missions, team-based tactical combat, dynamic cover, and an interesting luck-based system pushing combat slightly beyond RNG. It's nice to see another successful Kickstarter game launch, and it looks like the game has been well received. I certainly look forward to giving it a try myself. The second Wild West themed game to release this week, 12 is Better Than 6, looks to be a take on Hotline Miami, with its top-down hardcore shooter action as you are a lone gunman fighting against the odds. Though you don't have to go in guns blazing this time around, as you can apparently complete almost the entire game without being noticed by using stealth to your advantage. I can't find any news on the game's length, but the game blurb claims it features a long story with a focus on people and their lives in a violent world. The art style is a lovely hand-drawn pen and paper affair with a smattering of red for blood effects that really pops, and the trailer highlights some good music and fitting sound effects. The game is available now with its launch price of £5.94 and will be £6.99 from the 27th of November. Ancient Domains of Mystery, otherwise known as ADOM, is an old-school roguelike that's been in development for over 20 years, that received a new coat of paint thanks to a crowdfunding campaign, and is now released on Steam for £10.99. As you can imagine, 20 years means a lot of love has been poured into this title, and it's a showcase to many of just what makes a good roguelike game, and features a mostly randomly generated underworld, a rich storyline, hundreds of ways to get started in the game, over 400 monsters, tens of thousands of items, and a whole host of systems like crafting, magic, religion, and corruption. Quite unbelievably, the base game can even be had for free from the official website at ADOM.de, and while it's not got many of the customization options the Steam version offers, it's still a complete offering and possibly worth checking out if you're unsure about the game or strapped for cash. You can always support the developer by buying the Steam version at a later date if you enjoy it. Life is Feudal Your Own is now available on Steam for £24.99, and as well as the base game that can be played on servers with up to 64 players, buyers will also get access to a single character in the upcoming Life is Feudal MMO that will begin testing in the second half of next year. Life is Feudal is an immersive life simulator with survival elements, building, crafting, a physics-based combat system that's tied into realistic wounds mechanic, complete with fractures and bleeding, and a whole lot more. It certainly seems to be a slow burner, but filled with detail. Take for instance farming. You'll need to consider different crops and soil fertiliser which comes from your barns or stables that will need to be managed and cleaned out, and of course the animals producing the fertiliser will need to be fed and tended to as well. While reviews are mixed, it's clearly a game some will devote a lot of time to, and it seems to be the sort of game that requires that level of dedication to get the most out of it. I'm not sure I have the patience for such a game these days, but it looks quite fascinating, and I'm interested in seeing what Bitbox Limited do in their massively multiplayer version of the game. Star Wars Battlefront from DICE and EA has now released and is available on Origin and Uplay for £49.99. A first or third person shooter that certainly does a good job representing Star Wars with some amazing visuals and outstanding sound effects. Battlefront has multiple game modes, including a standout 20 vs 20 game mode. I tried the beta and enjoyed my time on Hoth, with hulking AT-ATs striding slowly across the battlefield, and X-Wing and TIE fighters vying for control of the skies. It was an incredibly cinematic experience, but what surprised me is how much it reminded me of single-player games. Odd, considering the game lacks a single-player campaign entirely. This is both praise and criticism, however. The reason I felt this way was in part because it managed to hit the sweet spot of action and map size. Games like Battlefield have had more players, but the action seems less focused and breaks out in smaller skirmishes across large maps. And a game like PlanetSide can feature hundreds of players, making it feel like you're just another gun in the crowd, and winning or losing based on superior numbers. Battlefront managed to make me feel like I was a regular trooper in an army, pushing the front lines while enemies and comrades alike fell all around me. The problem then being, I could have easily been playing against AI rather than players. If you had told me these were AI opponents rather than real players, I wouldn't have questioned you. There just weren't many moments for standout players or tactics, and I admit this could have been a mix of unfamiliarity with the game at the time, but overall it seemed to be due to a lack of depth or strategy beyond heading to the next objective. I found the game mostly enjoyable, but not something I think will cater to seasoned FPS players for very long, not helped by a lack of content which could get very repetitive. If you're after a quick fix game or simply want some fun in the Star Wars universe, it may just be worth the time, though I feel it could be more competitively priced for what's on offer. That's all for this episode of Recap. Thank you very much for your time, and farewell.